What kind of family throws you out of a hotel like garbage 2 days before your own sister's royal wedding? Mine did. And they had no idea that the woman they left standing on a cold street was about to become the reason their entire fairy tale collapsed on live television. If you believe family loyalty should never be a one-way street, hit the like button right now, subscribe to this channel, and type the word loyalty in the comments, because tonight you are going to watch it get repaid in full. My name is Nadia. I am 32 years old, and I work as a forensic accountant for one of the largest auditing firms in Chicago. I want you to remember that job title, because it matters more than anything else in this story. Everything that happened afterward, every consequence my family faced, came from the simple fact that nobody in my family ever bothered to ask what I actually do for a living. They thought I counted receipts. What I actually do is find money that people try very hard to hide. My younger sister Celeste is 27. Growing up, she was the pretty one, the charming one, the one my parents introduced first at every family gathering. I was the responsible one, which in our family meant I was the one who paid for things and never got thanked for it. I financed Celeste's college tuition when her scholarship fell through. I co-signed her first apartment lease when her credit wasn't good enough. When she needed startup money for a boutique clothing business that failed within a year, I quietly covered the loss so our parents wouldn't find out and lecture her. I never asked for credit. I did it because that is what family does, or at least that is what I believed family was supposed to do. 2 years ago, Celeste met a man named Prince Adrian of Belmoor, a small but extremely wealthy European principality known for its old banking families and strict royal protocols. She met him at a charity gala in New York, and within 8 months they were engaged. My parents were thrilled beyond words. Suddenly, our modest suburban family was going to have royal blood in it. My mother started referring to herself in conversations as the mother of the future princess. My father began wearing a signet ring he bought online because he thought it made him look aristocratic. I flew to Belmoor 3 days before the wedding, exactly as instructed, carrying gifts, carrying my best formal dress, carrying every good intention a sister could carry. I checked into the Palace Guest Hotel, a beautiful old building with marble floors and gold trim, and I was unpacking my suitcase when my hotel room door burst open without a knock. Celeste walked in wearing a silk robe and an expression I had never seen on her face before, something cold and calculating that I did not recognize as belonging to my little sister at all. She threw an envelope at my chest. It fell to the floor. Inside was a coach-class plane ticket back to Chicago, departing that same evening. "You need to be on this flight," she said. I asked her what she meant, and she told me, in a voice sharp enough to cut glass, that having me at the wedding would embarrass her in front of the royal family. She said I dressed like a middle manager, that I talked about spreadsheets at dinner parties, that I simply did not fit the image she needed to project to people who valued old money and effortless elegance. She told me I was an accountant, not aristocracy, and that Belmoor's royal family did not need to see where she actually came from. I stood there absorbing every word. 10 years of financial support, 10 years of quiet sacrifice, and in her eyes, I had become an inconvenient stain on her carefully constructed fantasy. Before I could respond, her eyes landed on the thin gold necklace around my neck, a small sapphire pendant that had belonged to our grandmother. She had left it specifically to me before she passed, because she knew Celeste would have sold it within a month. Celeste stepped forward and yanked it hard enough that the chain snapped and left a red mark across my collarbone. "A future princess should wear this, not you," she said, slipping it into her robe pocket. Then she walked out and slammed the door behind her. I did not cry. I want to be honest with you about that, because I know some of you are expecting tears right now. I felt something colder settle into my chest instead, a kind of clarity I had never experienced before. I walked to the bathroom mirror, looked at the mark on my neck, and understood in that exact moment that my family had never actually loved me. They had used me. And people who use you never expect you to notice, because they assume you are too loyal, too dependent on their approval, to ever do anything about it. I did not pack my suitcase and leave quietly. I went downstairs to find my parents. I found them in the hotel lobby, dressed elegantly, laughing with a small circle of Belmoor nobility. When I told them what Celeste had one, when I described the stolen necklace and the plane ticket meant to erase me from the week entirely, my mother's only response was a sigh of pure irritation. "Nadia, please don't make a scene," she said. "Celeste has enough stress this week. It's just jewelry." My father added that I had always been the jealous type, that I should be happy for my sister instead of causing problems over a piece of metal. When I refused to simply disappear quietly, my father signaled to hotel security and told them I was an uninvited guest harassing the wedding party. I was escorted out of the lobby in front of the same nobility my parents had just been charming. I stood outside on the cold cobblestone street with my suitcase, completely alone in a foreign country, banished by my own blood. That should have been the lowest moment of my life. Instead, it became the moment everything changed. I want you to understand something about me before I continue. I have spent 12 years tracing hidden money for a living. I have unraveled corporate fraud schemes that fooled federal auditors for years. When my family tried to humiliate me and discard me, they forgot that the woman they were discarding had spent her entire career finding exactly the kind of secrets people try desperately to bury. Standing on that street, phone in hand, I tried to book a hotel room for the night. Every single card I owned was declined. My checking account showed a balance of nearly zero. My available credit across every account had vanished. I stood frozen under a street lamp, staring at numbers that made absolutely no sense, because I had spent years building a spotless financial record specifically so this could never happen to me. That is when my phone rang. It was my sister-in-law, Priya, married to my older brother Thomas. Priya is a corporate attorney, sharp, meticulous, and the only person in my family who had ever treated me as an equal rather than a resource. She told me she had just opened a batch of forwarded mail at her house, mail that had been misdirected from our parents' address, and that something about it looked seriously wrong. Within an hour, on a secure video call, Priya showed me the truth. My parents had used my personal information, my social security number, my old address, even our grandmother's maiden name that I had once mentioned as a security question answer, to take out a fraudulent $2 million loan against a commercial property my grandfather had left jointly to me and my parents. My signature had been forged. The loan had cleared 2 weeks earlier. And the entire sum had been wired overseas into an account connected to Celeste's upcoming wedding, dressed up to look like an old family trust, so that Belmoor's palace would believe Celeste came from generational American wealth rather than nothing at all. They had not just humiliated me. They had stolen my identity, buried me in debt I never agreed to, and used my own financial reputation to fund my sister's fairy tale. And they had thrown me out of the hotel the exact same week the fraud was set to be discovered, ensuring I would be isolated, discredited, and far away when the first missed payment finally triggered an investigation. I felt the shock settle over me like ice water. Then, slowly, it turned into something far more useful: focus. I did not scream. I did not call Celeste and demand an explanation. In my profession, the moment you react with pure emotion is the moment you lose your advantage. I found a small 24-hour internet cafe a few blocks from the Palace District, ordered black coffee, opened my laptop, and got to work. Priya sent me the forged loan documents. The signature was a convincing copy, but digital forgeries always leave fingerprints if you know exactly where to look. I extracted the metadata from the digital signing file and traced the IP address used to complete it. It matched perfectly with my parents' home internet router in Ohio. I pulled my own work calendar for that exact date and time. I had been sitting in a client meeting in downtown Chicago with 11 witnesses and a signed security badge log proving I was hundreds of miles away. Next, I traced the money itself. My parents had wired the stolen $2 million through a shell company registered in the Caribbean, something they clearly purchased cheaply online without understanding a thing about how international banking compliance actually works. I ran the shell company's registration details through international financial watchdog databases, the same databases I use professionally every single week. What I found made my stomach turn. The shell company was already flagged. It had been under active joint monitoring by federal investigators and an international financial crimes unit for over a year, suspected of laundering money tied to organized crime networks in Eastern Europe. My parents, in their desperate attempt to disguise stolen money as old family wealth, had unknowingly routed it through one of the most closely watched laundering channels currently being tracked by law enforcement. And from that shell company, the money had moved directly into Belmoor's Royal Wedding Trust, the very fund meant to prove Celeste's suitability to marry into the crown. If you have ever discovered that the people who were supposed to protect you were actually using you the entire time, comment the word clarity below, because that single word describes exactly what I felt sitting in that cafe at 2 a.m. I called Priya back immediately. I need you to help me build something airtight, I told her. Not a family argument, a legal case. She agreed instantly. While I mapped the financial trail from my laptop in Belmoor, Priya went to work in the United States, walking directly into the bank that had approved the fraudulent loan and demanding to see the security footage from the day my signature was forged. The footage was undeniable. My parents sat comfortably at the loan officer's desk, laughing, casually explaining that their daughter had given them power of attorney to handle some family business. Within 24 hours, we had built a complete case. Forged signature metadata, security footage, international wire records, a direct link between a known money laundering shell company and a foreign royal treasury. It was no longer a family dispute over a stolen necklace. It was federal wire fraud, identity theft, and international money laundering, all traceable back to two people who thought a signet ring from an online store made them untouchable. I did not send this information to a gossip website. I did not post it online for sympathy. I sent the complete dossier directly to 3 places at once. The Belmoor Ministry of Finance, which vets every incoming royal marriage for financial legitimacy. The Office of the Royal Treasury Inspector, and the white-collar crime division of the FBI back in the United States, flagged under international wire fraud protocols. Within minutes of transmission, I watched the digital access logs light up on my monitoring software. The Ministry of Finance opened the file, then the Royal Treasury. Then, according to the access timestamp, an entirely separate secure network account, King Alaric's own private office. While I waited for Belmoor's government to react, my own professional world came crashing down around me. A gossip website had somehow gotten wind of my disappearance from the wedding festivities, almost certainly planted by a public relations team my parents had quietly hired. The article claimed I had suffered a psychological breakdown fueled by jealousy, that I had shown up intoxicated and had to be forcibly removed from the hotel for the family's safety. Within hours, my own auditing firm called me on an emergency line. My managing partner apologized, but explained that with global headlines circulating about my alleged instability, and with my firm holding sensitive government contracts, they had no choice but to suspend me pending an internal review. They believed they had destroyed my career and my credibility in one single move. What they did not realize is that I had already downloaded every piece of evidence onto a secure offline drive before my corporate access was ever revoked. They locked the front door. I was already sitting comfortably inside with everything I needed. 2 hours later, I heard engines outside my modest budget motel on the edge of the city. 3 black armored vehicles pulled into the parking lot, moving with a precision that told me exactly who they belonged to. A sharp knock followed. When I opened the door, 2 members of the Belmoor Royal Guard stood outside, formal, respectful, and completely unlike the security guards who had thrown me out of the hotel 2 days earlier. "Miss Nadia," the taller one said, bowing his head slightly. "His Majesty King Alaric requests your immediate presence at the palace. I want to pause here and tell you something important before we reach the final confrontation, because what happens in the next few minutes changes everything you think you know about power. Please make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on, because the ending of this story is something you will want to see unfold in real time." The armored convoy moved through the city streets, past crowds already gathering for the royal wedding procession, past flags and flowers hung in celebration of a marriage that was, unknown to nearly everyone watching, already collapsing under the weight of federal fraud. We passed through a private security tunnel beneath the palace and rode a guarded elevator up to the main state rooms. I stepped out into a hallway lined with priceless art and silent, watchful security personnel, holding a leather folder that contained the complete, irrefutable truth. Inside the grand ballroom, the wedding reception was already in full swing. Celeste danced in arms of Prince Adrian, wearing a gown embroidered with real pearls, our grandmother's stolen necklace glittering against her collarbone. My parents stood near the edge of the dance floor, glowing with a pride they had built entirely on stolen money and a family they had happily sacrificed to get it. The massive doors of the ballroom were thrown open. The music stopped. Every head turned toward the entrance, where I stood flanked by 4 members of the royal guard, dressed simply, carrying nothing but a leather folder and an expression of total calm. Celeste's smile vanished the instant she saw my face. King Alaric rose from his seat at the head of the hall and walked directly toward me, bypassing his own son entirely. He extended his hand. "Thank you, Miss Nadia," he said, loud enough for the cameras broadcasting the ceremony to capture every word. "Your integrity may have just saved this kingdom from a catastrophic financial scandal." I handed the folder to Prince Adrian myself. He opened it, and I watched the color drain from his face as he read through the forged loan documents, the shell company records, and finally the direct link between his bride's wedding trust and an active international money laundering investigation. Celeste screamed that I was lying, that I was jealous, that I had always wanted to destroy her happiness. My parents tried the same tired accusations, insisting I was unstable, insisting the entire family had tried to get me psychiatric help. But this time, the truth did not need me to argue. Priya, watching remotely, activated a live video feed onto the ballroom's massive display screens, showing the bank security footage of my parents forging my signature, laughing as they did it. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I have ever experienced in my life. King Alaric did not hesitate. He annulled the marriage on the spot, declaring it built on fraud and deception unworthy of the crown. Celeste was stripped of the jewelry loaned to her for the ceremony, including, finally, our grandmother's necklace, which was returned directly to my hands. My parents and sister were escorted out of the country within hours, and the moment their plane touched down back in the United States, federal agents were waiting on the tarmac with arrest warrants for wire fraud, identity theft, and international money laundering. My parents each received lengthy federal prison sentences. Every asset they owned was seized to repay the fraudulent loan and cover federal penalties. Celeste, stripped of her royal fantasy and blacklisted from the social circles she had spent her life chasing, ended up working retail in a shopping mall, folding the same designer clothes she used to wear. As for me, my auditing firm begged me to return with a full partnership offer once the truth came out. I declined. I had already accepted a private consulting contract directly from the Belmoor Royal Treasury, alongside Priya, who filed for divorce from my brother the same week he chose silence over standing up for me. Together, we built our own firm, one grounded entirely in honesty, precision, and the kind of loyalty that is earned rather than assumed. A year later, I stood on the balcony of my own apartment overlooking the city skyline, wearing my grandmother's necklace, finally resting exactly where it always belonged. I thought about the woman who stood shivering on a cobblestone street with nothing but a suitcase and a stolen fortune working against her. That woman had no idea she was about to become unstoppable. People often mistake cruelty for power and manipulation for intelligence. My family believed that stealing my name and my money would buy them a crown. What they never understood is that real power isn't a title someone hands you at a wedding. Real power is knowing exactly how to follow the truth, no matter how carefully someone tries to bury it. If you have ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to love you the most, and you found a way to rise anyway, tell me your story in the comments below. Your strength might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that quiet strength always outlasts loud cruelty in the end.